Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at what causes cells to stop dividing as we get older, and then also why cancer cells can keep dividing to form those giant tumors that we see in a cancer situation. So I'm sharing my screen with you here, and these are the slides from chapter 8 that are available in Blackboard. So we're going to investigate in this video, why do normal cells stop dividing as we get older? Everybody's body is ultimately going to start breaking down, things start to go wrong, and eventually we're all going to die because we lost the ability to repair and replace our damaged cells. But cancer cells seem to be able to keep dividing indefinitely. Some of you might have read that book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta Lacks died back in the 50s, but her cells are still alive. So those cancer cells they harvested are still going strong and still growing in labs all over the country and all over the world today. So the cancer cell was able to keep dividing long after any of the other cells in the body. And then we're going to get the definitions of these words: tumor, benign, and malignant. So why does a normal person's cells stop dividing as you get older? So if you look at chromosomes, at the end of your chromosome, you have a protective cap, and it's called a telomere. Telomere are these caps that are at the end of your chromosome, and notice what happens. Every time you copy the chromosome, you chop off a little bit of your telomere, right? So if you have a chromosome, and this part down here is the telomere, let's see what's going to happen the first time we copy. We chop a bit off. Second time we copy, we chop a bit off. Third time. Some of the cells in our bodies are copied hundreds and hundreds of times. So every time we copy the cell, we're going to chop a bit of the telomere off. And eventually a point comes where we run out of telomeres. So now next time we copy this chromosome, we're going to chop a piece of the DNA off. So remember that we had our checkpoints, our G1 checkpoint. And our job of our G1 checkpoint is to check and make sure that the DNA is okay and hasn't been damaged. So if you chopped a piece of your DNA off, it's going to be damaged, right? So then that cell will not be allowed to copy anymore. So the telomeres are this protective cap that's on the end of your chromosome. And then when you run out of telomere, you won't be able to copy that cell anymore. So this is why most humans, as we get older, our cells stop repairing and stop replacing. And you can see this in an older person. If you have an 8-year-old child who fractures a bone in their arm, and you have an 80-year-old person who fractures a bone in their arm, whose bone is going to heal up faster? The 8-year-old child is going to be healed up in about 4 to 6 weeks. The 80-year-old might take 12 weeks, 3 months to heal up. So healing definitely slows down as you get older. And we know from looking at older people with bed sores and so on that some wounds don't heal at all as you get older. So everything slows down as you get older, and the stem cells stop dividing because they lose their telomere caps. But then we said that in a cancer situation, for some reason, the cells seem to be able to keep going and keep dividing, even though they've copied many times already. So here you can see in this picture, it's just showing you how as your cell division process proceeds, how your telomeres get chopped off. So at age 25, you still got quite a nice chunk of telomere here. So you can keep copying this chromosome another couple of times. At age 45, the chunk of telomere is a little shorter. At age 60, the chunk of telomere is a little shorter. And at age 75, the telomere is completely gone. So you won't be able to copy this cell anymore, or if you do copy it, it's going to have a problem. It's going to have a genetic errors on there and probably won't be able to make the protein it's supposed to make anyway. So we mentioned that in cancer, for some reason, we seem to be able to keep the cell dividing even though it's copied many times already. So cancer cells have a special enzyme called telomerase, which is able to repair the telomere. So in a cancer cell, when you copy the chromosome, you chop off a bit of the telomerase comes and puts a new part on there. So it repairs it. So every time the chromosome copies, the telomerase repairs it and lengthens the telomere again. So this means that when you've got your cancer cell and you've got your cap on the end here, you chop a bit off and then the telomerase re-adds the same part. So you're just chopping off the same part over and over again. You never get down to the DNA. You never get DNA damage. So this cell is going to be able to copy over and over and over again. So this is how the cancer cells can keep dividing indefinitely. And this is how they're able to form these large tumors. So let's take a look at some of the terminology about the tumors. So first of all, what is cancer? Cancer is a disease of uncontrolled cell proliferation. This means you make too many copies, right? So usually if you have human cells growing in a Petri dish, if they touch each other, that's a signal that they shouldn't make any more copies. So in normal cells, your body knows when it has enough of a certain cell and it should stop the copying process once it has enough cells. But in cancer cells, they're able to copy, and they're all able to grow one on top of the other to form these large balls of cells that we call tumors. So in cancer, we've lost control of cell division. We're making copies when we don't want them to. So we've lost the regulation of the cell cycle. And the cells are forming this giant ball or tumor inside the body. Now, there's two types of cancers. It could be benign or it could be malignant. So the benign is usually the type of cancer where the cells are growing inside a nodule and they're not going to spread. So they're not going to go into your lymph nodes or go into your bloodstream and spread to other tissues. It's usually pretty localized and you can usually have surgery to take out the tumor. But if it's malignant, then it's the really aggressive type of cancer that does spread. So it spreads through your bloodstream, spreads through your lymphatic system, and will quickly move into other organs around the body. So the good news to get from your doctor would be that if you had a tumor, the best news would be no tumor, right? But if you had a tumor, and the thing you want to hear from your doctor is that the tumor is benign, because that's the one that's going to be easier to manage. Malignant is bad news. So here you can see how a tumor would form inside the breast tissue. And usually this grows from a single cell, which copies, and then this is how you get the tumor forming or the ball of cells forming. And then remember, every tissue of your body has blood supply. Every tissue of your body has lymphatic system supply, which is this other fluid that carries the cells of your immune system. So some of the cancer cells are going to break off, and if it's malignant, it's going to break off and go into the bloodstream or break off and go into the lymphatic vessels. And remember, blood is going everywhere in your body. So it can go up to your brain, it can go into your lungs, it can go into your liver, it can go into any of the tissues of your body if it's in your bloodstream. So when a cancer spreads like this, it's called metastasis. So again, metastasis is bad news, because if you started off with breast cancer and then it has metastasized into your liver, that means it has spread into your liver. And the cancers that have spread like that are really hard to get rid of. If you can get the cancer in the early stage like this, where it hasn't spread yet, this is why early detection is really important, because then you can get in there, cut out the tumor, and hopefully remove it before it starts spreading to other tissues. So this is why things like colonoscopies, breast exams, and so on are so important, because you want to try and catch the cancer as early as possible and try and remove the tumor when it's small and localized, because once it starts spreading out or metastasizing, it's going to be really hard to try and kill it after that point. So here you can see why cancer is a big problem. So this is your healthy liver tissue over here, and usually it should be pink like this. So all these white things you can see, this is a cancer tumor, this is a cancer tumor, this is a cancer tumor. So the key thing about this is the tumor takes over the space where healthy cells are supposed to be. So this entire section of the liver now is not doing liver jobs, right? Also, the cancer cells are really good at getting blood vessels to grow into the tumor to give nourishment to the cancer cells. So they're diverting a lot of the oxygen and nutrients that the regular cells need into the cancer tumor to grow more cells. And then the healthy tissue is kind of starved of the oxygen and nutrients. So um, the cancer is stopping the function of this organ. So the liver does many important things for your body. So if it stops working, you're going to have some pretty major problems. So the tumor often just is crowding out the healthy tissue. And then, of course, remember we said it could potentially spread into other tissues, and then you have some really big problems. So I mentioned already that the cancer cells have the special enzyme called telomerase, which is going to constantly replace the telomeres. So that means that the cancer cell never stops dividing. So of course, scientists who are studying cancer are really interested in this enzyme, because maybe if you could block this enzyme, you could stop these cells from dividing indefinitely, right? So of course, this is a huge avenue of interest for people who are researching cancer treatments and how to treat these invasive cancers. All right, so that's the end of the video. And then we're actually finished the first part of our chapter 8, which is all about cell reproduction. And then for our next part, we're going to be learning all about sexual reproduction. So that's going to be our next video.